there is a specific way you deal with and communicate with directors. And there's certain things to understand about them and how a lot of them think. Well, they're different. But directors are the captain of the ship in the case of a film. In TV series, the showrunner is the captain of the ship. And you have to be able to know the difference of who you're talking to and when and so on. But in this instance, we're going to talk about directors. See, directors have the big vision for whatever they're trying to do. And the music of a film is usually a very sensitive discussion and part of the film because it's the one aspect that they don't have control over. They have to let it go and they have to trust somebody else to get that out. And 9 out of 10 times they don't know what they're going to get out. They don't know what notes I'm going to put together. They don't know what it's going to sound like until they hear it. And they can be a bit nervous about it. Because not only the reason they don't know what it's going to sound like is because one, it's not coming from their brain. It's coming from somebody else's brain. And two, a lot of the time they don't know how to make music. They don't know how to compose. And so it's hard for them to be able to conceptualize exactly what they want from the film. And so sometimes that's why they need help with temp music during edit to be able to lock down exactly what it is they want. But even then, when they hand that film over to a composer, they don't know what they're going to get. Essentially, when a director looks at you as a composer and when a director chooses you as a composer, they're choosing you on the basis of your perspective of the world, your perspective of the story, and that's what they're basically investing in. The way you see the story, the way you see the world, the way you relate to the characters and to that world, and how that world, how you interact with that world. And so even then, they still don't know what they're going to get out. And so there's a way to communicate with directors, and there's a way to working with them in such a way that you have to be sure that they're comfortable. You have to be sure that I've got this figured out. Don't worry. This is going to be amazing. It's going to be great. Even when you don't know yourself, even though you are afraid that I don't know what the hell I'm doing, I don't know how I'm going to get to the bottom of it, you have to give them something to be confident in. And you have to make sure that they're going to be okay. Make sure they know they're going to be okay. Because this part can be a bit stressful for them. It's having an aspect in your movie that you couldn't think up, that you don't know what it's going to sound like, and hoping that it fits. It can be a bit tough. And because of that creative complexity, there are going to be many instances where you get fired from scoring. The reason you get fired is not because you suck. It's mainly because there are times where there's just creative differences. The ideas you have in mind for the film versus what the director may have in mind, and whether that what evokes that feeling for you may evoke something different for the director, because it's all subjective. You know, I'll play a piece of music in major chords only, and somebody will hear it and say, that's really, really sad. And somebody will be like, wow, that's such a good feel type of song. You just don't know how people are going to respond to it. And so you just need to be as honest with yourself as possible. And if whatever comes out of that honesty does not work with the director's vision, it is okay. It's not because you're bad, it's just creative differences, and it's okay for you guys to walk away from each other and for him to find somebody that can bring the film to the best form for him or her. So you need to understand those complexities of creative differences and the complexities of trying to find that middle ground and trying to find that common ground in emotion when it comes to music. There are people you'll sit with and you'll listen to the same songs and the same feelings get evoked, and that's what you're looking for. But there are cases where, you know, there's music that makes you very sad and somebody makes them very happy. You don't get that, and sometimes that can cause a little bit of, not friction, but like that can cause the story not to be in harmony. So you need to understand all of these things, and what you're striving for is to finding that common ground between you and the director, making sure that they feel okay in this journey that you're taking them through, and letting them know that they can have that faith in you and everything's going to be okay. You know, you will finish the scoring it and it is going to sound amazing. And sometimes when they start hearing certain tracks, they start to become more comfortable and all of this stuff. And another thing to point out is that when speaking to a director, speak only about emotion. Don't speak notes, don't speak musical jargon, don't get too technical. Just speak about emotion and do more demonstrating than you do talking. Because the talking part can get sometimes it can get in the way, and it can really confuse things when too much gets said. I know that when speaking to the director for the first time, I try to minimize the things that I'm saying about what I'm going to do. I just do them. And then after doing them, then I show them, and then I explain after showing them. But talking about it in advance can send the director in a very particular path. And you can't control that, you know. And then when you play the music, it sounds like something completely different. And then there's it just gets confusing. And also try to minimize communicating with too many people. In an ideal space, it'll just be you and the director in the room. When you guys are listening to the music and you guys are having these discussions and all, it'll just be you and the director. Try to make sure that's the case. The minute you have the editor in the room, if the editor's not there talking technical things and is also contributing to how he thinks that's where you start having problems. Because too many cooks, too many opinions, too many can really make a very big mess of things. So just have that very, very isolated isolated space. The only thing you should be saying to the editor is, I need the cut in this format, and so on and so forth. And then if they're explaining to you how the cut's going to change or all of these technical aspects, cool. But from the creative side, keep it here. Keep it very close. Even the producers should try not to get involved too much in that process, because again, too many opinions can really mess up what you guys are trying to do. So if you have an option and you have the say in the mix, try to keep it that way. It's usually unavoidable. Sometimes the producer will insist on being there and will insist on putting their 2 cents, and that's also okay sometimes, because sometimes they do have good input and they sometimes do contribute it. But if I'm being honest about that whole situation, when you're really getting into the meat of it, minimize the number of people in the room. It makes things that much clearer, because too many different opinions, people think they're talking about the same thing, and 9 out of 10 times they're not. So isolate it. Let it be just purely you guys, and just try to keep on focusing on the emotional content and minimize on the technical aspect of music. That confuses them, and sometimes that will confuse you too. So that's to sum it up, how you try to interact with the director when you're scoring a project. You'll figure it out as it goes, and you'll start to see that directors have different personalities, and you'll learn how to work around their personalities and see how they work and all that stuff and figure that out. But it's something that happens over time as well.